Am I the asshole here for using information against my mother in court that I know will destroy her emotionally and mentally? I, 34 female, am involved in a very dramatic court case with my narcissistic mother and stepfather. First, a little backstory. When my sister was 1 and I was 3, my mother initially had custody. However, she had gone missing for 4 days, but leaving my sister and I in the home alone. Investigations were done, and we were raised by our father. There was a reunification plan, however, my mother did not follow any of it, and her parental rights were terminated. No one had ever talked negatively about my mother growing up or told me what happened. So when I was 20, I found my mum and decided to develop a relationship with her. Big mistake. After reuniting with my mother, I discovered quite a bit of information that I previously had not known. She is a narcissist, diagnosed formally, specifically vulnerable narcissist. My stepfather has BPD, diagnosed formally. This past decade has been torture, faked cancer. I was made to shave her hair. I had to pay them to watch my 2 children, constant arguments, just too much to name. In 2022, my parents decided to move 15 hours away for a get-rich-quick scheme involving flipping homes. I decided to stay in our hometown because my youngest child's father died, and I wanted to stay close to his family, plus I was already in a year-long relationship. My mother was enraged. After she had already left, she tried everything to get me to move up with them. She asked me how much money to break up with my boyfriend, got me fired from a job, wrote posts online about how mean I am, texted my oldest about me, sent me hundreds of messages each month, etc. This had been going on continuously for about a year. Earlier this year, I was served paperwork. My mother and stepfather are suing me for grandparents' rights. However, no court date was ever sent. My oldest child goes to her father's every break, and when she came back from summer break with him, she was acting very different. I found out that my mother and my child's father had been close in contact for about a year and a half, had my daughter speak with my mother, see my mother, and recorded videos of her that my child did not know about. I have sole legal and physical custody, so needless to say, a huge argument happened, and I'm now restricting any visitation. As a result of this incident, my mother and stepfather set a court date for a month from now. So here is why I ask if I am the asshole here. For court, I plan on using text messages where my mother said that my stepfather is a danger to children, text messages from my daughter's father stating my mother is psychotic and he would never give our children access to her, and my mother's court records. My mother has over 140 plus charges on her record in 5 different states. My stepfather knows none of it. I'm also using the fact that her parental rights to me were terminated, so legally she has no rights to my children. My concern is that knowing that she's a narcissist, when I use these documents in court, it will humiliate her and probably turn my stepfather against her. I do worry that it's going to trigger a horrible reaction from my mother, possibly the worst. I wish my mother no harm. I just want to be left alone and protect my children. I've been no contact this whole time, hoping it would stop, but it hasn't. I'm feeling so conflicted. In the comments, Bendy Biznatch says, "Be aware. CPS cleared me after my mom called them on me, with one caveat. If I let my mother back in my kids' lives, CPS would take them. Further, that my letting a known child abuser, my abuser no less, around my children was an indication that my parenting choices were in question." OP says, "I'm glad you were cleared. Gives me hope that I can get through this too. I'm staying no contact and have no intentions in ever engaging again. Which is why I also told my oldest child's father that he will not see her until further notice because he will let my mother around my child. If I can get a restraining order, I will. Just trying to get her out of my children and I's life, but with limited fallout. Looks like I can't avoid that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, when dealing with narcissists, the fallout will always be big. That being said, once they have their epic flameout, they tend to just dwindle to the background. I don't know why you care about humiliating a woman who has no issue doing the same to you at your children's expense. If her life is ruined, then she did it to herself. You're just the time bomb she set off that did her in. You already have grounds for a civil harassment restraining order. Just submit the reams of internet harassment that you've received from her. OP, not telling the court about her criminal past and all of the issues that make her a danger to your children would be enabling her. Bad for your kids, for you, even for your mother. If your stepfather doesn't know about all the dark stuff, then he should. You are under no obligation, moral or otherwise, to keep their warped secrets. You are under obligation to protect your daughter. I lived with a professionally diagnosed narcissist for a whole lot of years. I understand why you were hesitant to anger your mother, but you can't good girl your way out of this threat to your child. Don your armor and go forth to tell the truth. I'm wondering why you remained in contact with your mother once you discovered her issues. OP replies, I often ask myself the same question. I've never dealt with anyone like her before, and I never lived with her, so I didn't experience a lot of this wrath until I defied her wishes. I wasn't raised around her family, so I didn't know anyone else's experience. I also didn't know a lot of the criminal stuff until I hired a private investigator. The mental illness stuff should have scared me more, but at the time, it didn't. Now that I do know everything, I can never let my kids near them again. Knight Connor asks, I'm curious why you would even care what effect this would have on her. You intend to present evidence-based facts that are entirely pertinent to a legal proceeding that she started involving the care and safety of your minor child. At no point should you be considering how that information reflects on her relationships with anyone else in her life, because that is not irrelevant here. OP replies, I didn't specify in my post, but I have 2 half-siblings, from my mother, that are being put in the middle of this as well. So part of me is concerned that my mother will destroy my relationships with my half-siblings who I am close to. My mother is the type of person who would attempt suicide and write a note saying that I made her do it. While I do not want my mother in my life, I do want my half-siblings, but I guess I just need to put that concern aside and maintain focus on my kids. Yeah, look, you were ignorant of what she was like, and I don't blame you for that. If this is your first experience with someone or some group of people with this magnitude of mental illness, that's not your fault. We all make mistakes and we have to learn through failure. You obviously know what you're doing, and I don't think you're the asshole here for using information against her. As people have said, it would be counterproductive not to. If they're suing you and they're going as far as dragging it through the courts, I would say that is enough justification to use all the ammunition she has given you. Embarrassing her at this point, humiliating her, is the least of your worries. And now, onto the update. So I finally have an update on my situation since I last posted about 5 months ago. Court was postponed twice by my mother for reasons I don't know. Then it was postponed for a 3rd time due to accusations that I was an unfit mother and my daughter had suicidal ideations. My mother asked the judge to appoint a guardian ad litem to make sure the children were safe. Court was rescheduled to March 2025. The past 5 months have been nothing but researching my mother. I found she had a total of 19 active warrants, including 3 probation violations. I turned everything over to my lawyer in hopes that something would work. 2 days after discovery was turned over to my mother's lawyers, my lawyer called to let me know that she officially dropped the case. My children and I met with the guardian ad litem, and they told the judge that they see no issues whatsoever. After over a year of fighting this, it is finally over. It's been such a tough battle, but I'm so happy that my kids are safe and will never have to go through what I have. Thank you to everyone who wrote me personally and commented such positive things. You all have no idea how much it helped me, especially when I was having such an internal struggle. My kids are doing better than ever, and I'm grateful that we pushed through. More info. To answer some comments, I've already moved several states away, changed my contact information, and have been no contact for 3.5 years. I'm currently working on getting a restraining order, but have been advised by my lawyer that I may not get granted one due to the lack of proof. That's frustrating, but I'm still trying anyways. My daughter and I still had no contact with her father, and other than a very strange Darth Vader text, we haven't heard from him. He is also a couple of states away from us. I also have my daughter in therapy, so I'm hoping she learns how to have better boundaries than I did. I'm not going to call the different areas about her warrants yet. My thinking is that she won't make any big moves against me as long as they are active and I know about them. Something I can hold over her head, just in case she tries something again. I know it's probably not over, but this was a huge win. In the comments, the MCP says, contact all the venues for which she has warrants and tell them where she is and how they can find her. Let them take care of it from there. If OP reported the warrants to her lawyer, as an officer of the courts, they are mandated to report the fact that they know. Whether this happens or not, if the warrants are out of state, or are there some in state, who knows? Lawyers do have expectations of confidentiality, but that's only in regards to those paying their bills. The mother wouldn't be covered. What an incredible update. Your strength in fighting for your kids is truly inspiring. I'm relieved to hear the guardian ad litem found no issues. What kept you motivated throughout this journey? OP replies, thank you. What kept me going was my kids and wanting to break the cycle of toxicity for them. They deserve the world. Hopefully they will have better boundaries and not find themselves in a similar situation. Calm Beneath Castles replies, where narcissists are concerned, no contact only gets better from here. They're like a cloud of poison gas. To be in contact is to be harmed. I'm 13 years past the point of no contact, and I feel better than ever. One really can't start the healing process soon enough. OP replies, congrats on 13 years no contact. It's been 3.5 years for me, and I'm staying that way. How did you handle the narcissist turning people against you if you experienced that? Did your narcissist ever try to punish you for going no contact? That's what's currently happening to me now. It's retaliation for taking control of my own life and cutting them off from my children. Do they ever stop? It's been exhausting constantly looking over my shoulder and not knowing who to talk to and trust. Any other advice? Disappointment Cafton says, I think it's most likely an extinction burst. The tantrums get way worse to see if they can provoke a reaction out of you before they finally get tired of getting no response or realize there is no point. You're cutting her off from her current supply of drama. Eventually, she will turn her energies to a new one. It should die down with time, fingers crossed. And don't forget that anyone who is close enough to her to hear her complaints about you likely has enough history with her to either take what she says with a huge grain of salt or will eventually find out the hard way, when she turns on them too. And Old Ninja says, please do not ever have contact with your mum and your stepdad again. Also, that ex seems to be a jerk too. If your mum starts harassing you, just make sure to document, video record, and file a restraining order against her as baby daddy included your kids. That would be best. People continue to amaze me. This absolute psychopath with 19 active warrants is like, yeah, the best thing to do right now is to take her to court. The judge, the law, police. I should put myself right in front of them with my legal name, come out of hiding, and try and fight this little petty, frivolous thing where I'm being insane. My narcissism will shield me from the consequences of my 19 bad actions. My 19 mistakes will surely not come back to haunt me. Hopefully, OP goes for that restraining order after all of this and keeps them out of her life. It sucks to have to learn the hard way, these kinds of ways, but it's good to have at least some neutral third parties like Redditors to give you an idea of what you should do next. Thank you for sharing the story, OP. I very much appreciate that. Our next post is by user MajorDirt6675, titled, Am I the asshole for defending my wife after my sister tried to kick her out? My wife and I are both 27. I live with my sister, she is 26, we both live in the same house. The house we live in, we inherited from our grandpa. And we decided that instead of selling it, we should live in it as it is quite big, and maybe in the future we will sell it and earn some profit. But nowadays, my sister and my wife fight quite a lot, and it's mostly me who breaks them off. My sister does not like my wife, and she said she doesn't like her because she does nothing. She doesn't have a job, she just sits all day because maids do all the work. Yesterday, my sister asked my wife to leave. She said she's tired of her. I said my wife's not going anywhere, and why does it matter if she's not working? Our bills are paid, and my wife working wouldn't make any difference. She said that my wife is just a freeloader. I told her that if she has a problem, then we should sell the house and move on. But my sister started crying, and she said she's trying to help me and my wife, but I don't listen to her concerns, and instead, I just become aggressive towards her. In the comments, Fuzzy Mike says, "As soon as I read that you and your sister and your wife are all living in the same house, the root of the problem was clear. Sell the house and move out is the sensible solution. Better than trying to force a living situation that is precariously built on optimism. You, your wife, your sister. None of you wants to live where you need to watch your P's and Q's whenever you're in your home. Home is supposed to be where you don't have to show your public persona. You and your sister have set up a situation where both of you have to do that. Your wife too. She agreed to this. Ending the living situation is better than ending the relationship with your sister. Not the arsehole. It's time to sell the house. Or if your sister wants to stay, she needs to buy you out. You got married. How you and your wife choose to navigate your marriage is your choice, not your sister's. But it's clear these two women cannot live together. So you need to decide what to do so you can all have some peace. Your sister should not be made to feel like there's a freeloader in her home, and your wife shouldn't have to feel unwelcome in hers." I think OP's sister is the asshole, not because of how she feels, but because she constantly argues with OP's wife, trying to control her. And then she gets upset when OP said they should sell the house, because the asshole sister then has no chance of getting her way. I think OP should sell the house, obviously. It's too much pointless drama. I do think the sister is being antagonistic towards the wife, hoping to run her off because she doesn't like her, but it's really irrelevant. If he is fine with what his wife does or does not do, that is no one's business but his. He needs to end this living arrangement. I think if you guys can afford to have maids in this house, you can probably afford to change the living dynamic in one way or another. I agree that the sister is the asshole in this situation, and that is more than enough justification to take action now. You're not the asshole for defending your wife, but I think the writing is on the wall, and you guys need to get up and do something about this. And now, on to the update. So I've been thinking about this issue for so many days, like what would be the best way to resolve the issue with my sister without hurting my and my wife's bond with her, because I don't want to lose my sister over a house. So I decided that I will move out with my wife for now, and my sister lives in the house. Yesterday, I told my sister that I'm planning to move out with my wife, and she lives in our home, and we will decide later in the future whether to sell or buy the other half. My sister got upset and said she doesn't want me out of the house, and she doesn't hate my wife. She just doesn't like that my wife does nothing while we're both working our asses off. To calm her down, I said that she can keep the house, and I will give up my claim over it, but my sister said that I'm making it all about the house when she's trying to help me because my wife is just a freeloader. I told my sister that if my wife doesn't want to work, then she doesn't have to. I will take care of her, and I am moving out, and she can keep the house. My sister said, "Do whatever you want," and now she is upset with me and ignores me. I'm looking for another place, but I don't get why my sister is upset with me when I have done everything I can for her. What did I do wrong? In the comments, Even Ad says, "To be honest, the sister seems more upset about your wife than the house itself. She probably feels like she's losing you to someone she doesn't respect. Give her some space, but don't back down from your decision. She'll either come around or she won't, but that's on her." Sister sounds like she wants to be OP's wife and be able to not have to work. Big jealousy issues. Or that she's even in love with her brother. They are adult siblings and are entitled to have adult relationships with their spouse. The whole desperation the sister has for him to stay is weird at that age. Like really weird. Bingo. I think she's jealous of OP's wife's lifestyle more than being in love with her. She is resentful that she has to work and her sister-in-law gets to do what she wants all day. OP, this isn't about the house. This likely has to do with a building resentment against your wife. It's unclear if it's due to how bills are handled. i.e., her paying half when she should only be paying 1/3, or something else, i.e., jealousy over working her ass off while sister-in-law sits around all day doing nothing. Figure that out. Further, something else to consider, if you unexpectedly passed away tomorrow, could you guarantee that your wife would be able to continue living the lifestyle that she has become accustomed to? If the answer is no, then you are doing a disservice to your wife and should consider talking to her about getting her butt in gear and working towards something that can allow her to support herself in the event such a situation occurs. Even if you both move out of the house, that should be considered. I doubt your sister would be so generous as to support her financially should something happen to you. I feel like this is one of those stories where if the other person were to tell their side of the story, it would paint a whole other picture and answer a lot of questions that the OP is omitting from their post. Right? The first thing I imagined is wife being home all day, every day, while the others work. The house will start to feel more like it's the wife's, if only because she's there all the time, using the space in a way that suits her and the others are out working. Wife probably has habits based on certain rooms she uses at certain times of the day. If sister takes a sick day, wife is there on the sofa while she's watching TV. It just gets exhausting to share a space with a roommate who doesn't have to be anywhere else, unless the person who stays at home doesn't actually stay at home. And now, onto the final update. So I read a lot of the comments, and a lot of people were asking how do we split the expenses. So for clarification, I pay approximately 70% of our bills. My wife's personal expenses are paid by me, and I try my best not to burden my sister. Things like electricity, water bills, etc., and paying maids, I cover more than half. So after I told my sister that I'm moving out with my wife, she stopped talking to me for a few days, and I started looking for another place, at least to stay temporarily, because I realized my wife and my sister cannot live under the same roof. I found an apartment nearby, and 2 days ago, I told my sister that I'm moving out in a few days, and my sister started crying and said that she doesn't want me to go because the house is mine as much as it is hers. I told her that I don't want to move out either, but I'm facing a situation where I have to choose one of you, and I think it's best if I move out with my wife and she stays in the home, which is best for all of us. My sister said she has no problem with us living together, she only hates the fact that my wife does nothing, and my wife should work and help us. I told her if my wife doesn't want to work, then she doesn't have to, and I don't mind that either. She's a housewife, and I told her if she doesn't want to work, she doesn't have to. I will take care of her as well. My sister said no to my proposition, so I told her that she can have the house and I'll give up my claim over it. She said she will move out as well because she doesn't want to live alone in such a big house, and when we decide to sell, I will get my half. She's angry at me, and she's sad. To be honest, so am I. My sister and I have been together for as long as we remember, and now we, as siblings, are splitting. I wish there was another solution to our problem, but I can't find a way to please both of them, and they fight with each other, and I don't want to choose one over the other. So it's best if me and my wife move out, and I visit and spend time with my sister on weekends or holidays, or whenever possible. In the comments, Flomojo Blow says, they need to sell the house, or one buy out the other. Rip the Band-Aid. It's like Sis has been using OP as a surrogate partner and gotten so comfortable that she thought she had the right to interfere in his relationship. The only choice was to sell, since she doesn't see anything wrong with her behavior. They can use the funds to buy their own properties, or at least pay a good portion of it. It's ridiculous to say, well, if you move out, I don't want to live in a big house alone, so I will move out as well. Just put the house on the market already. At the end of the day, it's not your sister's business if your wife works or not. She may not like it, but it really doesn't matter, and the only reason I can think of for her to obsess over it is that she is jealous. And even if your wife decided to work, would it even be enough for your sister? Yes, she works, but only part-time, and I think she should be working full-time. Or, yes, now she works full-time, but it's an easy job, so she should get a more stressful one like mine. Tell your sister that green is not a good color on her, that she needs to mind her own business, and I hope you will be happy with your wife in your new place. Yeah, I think the sister is getting way, way, way too comfortable involving herself in the relationship. OP is being horrendously generous. Being like, it's okay, I don't want to fight with you. I understand that you don't like my relationship dynamic. That's okay. You're welcome to have your opinion, but can you stop sharing it? And she's like, no, you don't understand. I'm going to keep sharing it until I see some change in your relationship. I'm sorry, but only deranged people think that way. There's only so much generosity you can extend to a sibling before you have to cut the apron strings and say, I don't like what you're doing to me. I don't like what you're saying to my wife. I don't agree with your point of view. I want to remain cordial with you, but your actions and words are making that really difficult right now, and I have no choice but to remove myself from your life, much to your chagrin. And to my own chagrin. Everyone's chagrin. This story frustrated me. I hate that the sister just didn't give up, didn't want to offer any solutions besides force the wife to work. Like, I get it. She's privileged. OP is a very privileged person to be able to extend that lifestyle to her, but who are you to decide their relationship dynamics? To me, it just looks like the sister doesn't want OP to have a wife, doesn't want him to have a family other than her. You're not allowed to do anything if she can't control you. Your sister is always going to move the goalposts and nothing is ever going to be enough unless it's just you and her living in that house and, she is happy and content with you being there. She needs therapy and she needs to work on her attachment issues. She has major, major problems. Good luck, OP, and thank you for the story. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.